Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. on October 21st. Start with a roll call. If we say here or present, Atagarla. Idvate. Anderson. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Klaptatauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig.
Here.
Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Simano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. Anderson. Rinchi. Did I miss anybody? All right, and then we have quorum. Move on to the Pledge of Allegiance with Speaker Ludwig. Thank you, and I'll go into the program for the evening, which is Sci Thanks. So if the presenter could come up to the podium.
Thank you so much. While he is getting the PowerPoint up, how many of you have ever heard of Sci Thanks by showing of hands? Yes, 3 people, 4 people. Yes, terrific. My name is Sarah Marchetti. I'm the director of our Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. We primarily deal with faculty and their teaching needs as well as graduate assistants. I wanted to come here, however, and talk a little bit more about Sci Thanks because indeed student government helps partner with us to make this a useful and wonderful addition to the Cyclone spirit. Okay, thank you. No, it's no problem. I'll just give it a second to go up if you don't mind. And it's wonderful to see you all in person. It's very nice. Well, it's okay. I don't have to use the PowerPoint. I can speak without it, certainly. And we got it. Good. So the other Sci Thanks partners that we work with are you, student government, GPSS, ISU learning communities. Is anyone part of that group? Multicultural student office. And you can go to the next slide if you don't mind. And then even the next slide after that. Our purpose for Sci Thanks is really in support of the ISU strategic plan, specifically mission number 4, that we create a welcoming and inclusive environment for all people at this university. You can go to the next slide. And what Sci Thanks is really just an acknowledgement of who makes you feel like a valued member of the ISU community. I'll just give you a second to even think right now, is there someone who you've interacted with this semester that's really helped you feel more at home with all that we're going through with COVID-19? This is the very simple question that is asked. Who makes you feel like a valued member of the ISU community? You can go to the next slide. During the week of October 26th, we will send an email out to the entire student body just promoting Sci Thanks. We'll also have it in the ISU Daily and Inside Iowa State. And Sci Thanks by the numbers. This is our 3rd year for the initiative. In 2018, we received 269 people who said thank you to someone. And then in 2019, 337 people submitted a Sci Thanks. The reason I'm here is we want to see those numbers increase. We want to have even more this semester. We've had over 100 departments and units represented. It really cuts across student as well as academic affairs. This is the very simple Sci Thanks submission form. I do not have Twitter, so you'll have to forgive me, but I believe if you do hashtag Sci Thanks, you'll be able then to retweet this to other people. It is open from now until November 30th, this link. We then put this on our CELT, Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching website, so that people can go back year after year and see who was thanked. I wanted to provide in the next couple of slides just a couple of examples. So from 2018, we had this wonderful quote about Dr. Papian. If any of you have had a class with her, she's in the HDFS department. And someone wrote, Dr. Papian shows how she values students by being respectful of all beliefs and backgrounds, making learning fun, and being open to questions. She helps open students' minds to new perspectives in a positive way. The next slide is another example, not for a faculty member, but for an academic advisor. I cannot imagine a more helpful, organized, knowledgeable, and passionate advisor than Anne Oldham, who is in food science and human nutrition. And then if you go to the next slide, it is Danielle Bickett-Weddle from the Center for Food Security Public Health, constantly reminds those she works with of their positive qualities while pushing them to grow, and is a trusted confidant, mentor, and friend to many. My point in bringing up these slides is that it's not just a thank you to a faculty member or an academic advisor. What we've seen through the 2 years that we've done it so far is a lot of students have thanked maybe a peer mentor, or in the residence halls, a resident hall unit. We even had last year someone thank President Winterstein, which I thought was a very nice thing to do. In this last slide, you'll see here that it's a very short Qualtrics link. All that we ask is whoever you're thanking, their name, their email if you happen to know it, who they are to you. Is it a fellow student? Is it a faculty member, staff, etc.? And then that last box, that most important box, is telling that person why are they a valued person to you. I do want to note that you can remain anonymous, or you can let that person know who you are. And in December, we then share each of the Sci Thanks with the person as well as with upper administration. We share that list of who was thanked in that semester. I thank you so much for your time and your energy. I would really appreciate if you helped share our positive message of hashtag Sci Thanks with your fellow students and see more submissions than we had last year. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. We'll go on to open forum. Open forum is a time to discussion for the student body. If you have an issue relevant to the student body or student government, please approach the lectern. All right, then seeing nobody moving, we'll go on to adopting the agenda. If you have amendments to tonight's agenda, Speaker Ludwig.
Right, I'm going to move to postpone indefinitely 2020-2-026Y, Finance Director Author Bill.
So there's been a motion to postpone indefinitely, which would effectively kill the bill, and there's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, then seeing no objection, 026Y has been postponed indefinitely.
I yield.
Okay. Senator Zastro.
Motion to add Senator Rinchie to the roll.
There's been a motion to add Senator Rinchie to the roll. Is there any objection? Seeing none, Senator Rinchie has been added.
I yield.
There's been a motion to adopt the agenda. There's a second. Is there any objection? Then seeing no objection, the agenda has been adopted. Then we'll move on to approval of the minutes from last week. Are there any amendments to last week's minutes? There's been a motion to adopt. There's been a second. Is there any objection? Sorry, Senator Young, are you objecting? Or?
I was going to motion to add someone to their role, but I can wait.
Okay, so there's no objection, and the minutes have been approved. Senator Young.
Motion to add Senator Anderson to the role.
Is there any objection to adding Senator Anderson to the roll? Then seeing none, Senator Anderson has been added as well. Are there any, so we'll go on to committee reports. First is rules with Speaker Ludwig.
Okay, so the 4 bylaw bills that came in today, last week in rules, we decided on the speaking privilege bill for the finance director. That's why we struck the authorship bill. We sent the privilege bill, I believe, no bias, right? I believe so. And then the other 2 bills should be sorry. I'm forgetting what the terminology for this is. In favor. Favorably. There we go. Sorry, I got 4 hours of sleep last night. We sent the other 2 bills favorably. So.
Senator Advait.
If I'm correct, we sent the privilege bill favorably to Senate. I yield.
All right. If anyone is curious on how the bills were sent, they can refer to the minutes as well, and they should be delineated in there as well. Are there any further questions for Rules Committee? All right, then seeing none, we'll go to Finance and Finance Director class.
Yeah, so I just sent out my update. Maybe the mic will work. Who knows? So Green Initiatives funding, that doesn't come to Senate, but I thought I'd update you. Also, Director of Sustainability Jennifer Seth is here if you have questions about that after the meeting. They're working with the Environmental Science Club to grow fresh produce for food banks in Ames, and hopefully in the future we'll work with SHOT, the Student Helping Our Peers, the group that does food banks on campus. So that was awesome, and we funded them because it was a great project and they had a fantastic proposal. It was great. Next on my update is the disc golf debt contract. They are not doing things as a club this semester, obviously because of COVID and just how the world is. So that's extending that by 1 year because of last semester they missed a payment because of COVID. This semester, COVID. So we're extending it by a year. If you have questions, please ask during that. Bill, funding mental health walk was from Director of Health and Wellness, Sophia Young, Director of Student Services, Brett and Clark, and then SI Committee, Senator Debate and Senator Hovey did a great job with that proposal. Came to us and we sent that favorably. It should be on Halloween. I think it's like a costume walk, but they'll tell you more about that later. Dance Marathon line item transfer. This is a very simple line item transfer from inflatables. They're not doing inflatables at their events anymore, and it's going to production costs for their events. Pretty simple. Funding Pakistan Student Association, we sent no bias. If you see in the minutes, there was a sticking point about renting the side bowl in the MU, and if it fit PNC. I talked to senators, finance senators after the meeting yesterday, and we figured out a solution, make sure it fits PNC and how you want that to look, but please ask questions. Please refer to the minutes. As always, if you have questions, please ask me. That's my job. I'm here to answer all your questions. Come to these meetings to answer your questions. So please ask questions if you have them. Anything else? I'm sure I'll email you about it. So have a great night.
All right, are there any questions for Director Class regarding Finance Committee? Then seeing none, we'll go to PR, and I'll ask Director Crabb to deliver that update.
Hi guys, or folks, can you all hear me? Okay, awesome. So this week we met with the first year council to reach out to student organizations. That was really awesome. We have a couple of people that actually want to run for election, so that was really awesome. The I Am a Voter mask giveaway is on our Instagram, so make sure to check that out. Tag a couple friends and share that to your story. Anna and I are visiting different halls to give a presentation on student government. If any of you all want to see that, just email me and I can totally send that your way. Also, I want to thank you all for doing the survey. That helped us a lot. We realized that a lot of freshmen and sophomores end up joining around that time. So we're reaching out to a lot of those first year programs, such as first year council halls. The Green Dot campaign is still going on our Instagram. I need someone to table for the 31st for the mental health walk for just like a student government table. I am working that day, so I can't make it. But if you are interested, please email me. That's on the MIS page. And then also, if you are a UROC senator, Morgan sent out an email last Sunday, regarding the residency fair. We need 2 more signups It's November 11th from 11 to 2, so just 2 more people sign up for that. And then also, find me later if you want to do the Senate recap. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions for Director Crabb? And seeing none, we'll go to Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And is that with President Fritz?
Yes. So as far as an update from Lauren, she said that the campus accessibility walk went very well, and a lot of people showed up and participated in that. So thank you to everyone that did that. And once she has the data all compiled from that, she will be taking that to FP&M just to let them know what the needs of the campus are. Additionally, she's working on filling out event authorization forms for the first diversity roundtable, which will be happening in the week of November 9th through the 13th.
Great. Are there any questions about Diversity and Inclusion Committee? Then seeing none, we'll go to Student Initiatives with Senator Hovey.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, as President Fritz just mentioned, a few members of SI and other volunteers took part in the campus accessibility review yesterday. It was kind of a good way to spend the day. I enjoyed walking around on campus because I haven't been able to do much of that this year. And also, Mental Health Walk will be on Halloween afternoon at 11 a.m. It'll be here on campus, and it'll be kind of like a short little circular walk. I'm not sure of all of the details on that yet, but yeah, and so we're working on that and working on getting the word out for that, and then just working on our other projects as well and keeping contact with departments and stuff like that.
Great. Are there any questions for Senator Hovey? And seeing none, we'll go to Civic Engagement Committee with Senator Samuel.
Yeah, hi everyone. So the last day to early vote at Schumann ended today, but early voting will continue at the Ames Public Library on the following dates, the 24th and the 31st, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then the last day to request an absentee ballot is the 24th of this month. So if you haven't done that, or if you need any more information, let me know. I yield.
Are there any questions for Senator Samuel? Okay. Then President Fritz with comments from the executive branch.
Yes. Hello again. Happy Wednesday. So today, Vice President Schrader and Director Bond and I had a meeting with student leaders of the other Regent institutions just to talk about kind of an orientation for the Board of Regents and what they do, kind of the current data and numbers that each of the Regent institutions are facing as far as, debt, enrollment, and all that type of stuff. And so that was some good background information for our, kind of lay some groundwork for our work, our year here. The Campus Accessibility Walk, again, led by Director Perk, Director Clark, and the Student Initiatives Committee, went very well. And there was a lot of great turnout for that, and a lot of buildings were surveyed. So thank you to everyone that was able to show up and help out with that. Director Campbell, Vice President Schrader, and I also met again with the Office of Financial Aid for a second time to discuss an income share program at Iowa State. They've been in contact with their counterparts at Utah and also Purdue. And so the information is going along nicely there. And then finally, a pass not pass meeting with Director Clark and a few senators there between Dr. Younger and Dr. Van der Zanden happened to discuss, what the feasibility of that was. And at this point in time, based on standards of accreditation, that's not possible to do what we did in the spring. Iowa State still needs to maintain the ability to give out degrees. So that's not an option right now, but there are some creative ideas coming along for the spring semester. I'll have a meeting about that on Friday. So if you have any ideas about, ways to kind of help improve people's learning inside and outside the classroom, please just let me know whatever those are before Friday. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, then seeing no placards, we'll move on to business for the day. So within external matters, we have 2020-2-029F, funding mental health walk with Senator Hovey.
Yeah, so Brett, if you would like to come up to the podium. They're just going to talk about kind of the supplies that we need for the mental health walk, like candy, coffee, and other things like that. Hi, can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Sophie Young. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness here for Iowa State. And we are planning on holding an event for students to get connected, social distance outside. In my position, I've talked to a lot of students, and I think they just feel pretty disconnected with their fellow peers, and also like they're spending a lot of time online with virtual learning. So we wanted people to get some exercise and get outside. So in terms of kind of the supplies that we're needing, our thought is to have students in spirit of Halloween trick or treat for resources on campus. So we have some tabling with some different campus organizations. We've got student government that will have a table. ISU PD will be there to talk about their mental health services and their mental health liaison. And then we also will have a table with the student wellness unit talking about some mental health and physical health resources on campus. So what we're doing is we're going to have cups with some prepackaged candy in there, and then each table will put a flyer or a card into that cup, and the students will take it home so that they can have information about that, all those resources that they can read anytime. And then Director Clark, you can talk about the rest.
Hi everyone, my name is Brett Clark. I'm the Director of Student Services. So kind of like what Sophie was saying, we want to have it be like kind of a trick or treat thing, and especially with it being like in a pandemic this year, we thought it would be a great opportunity to give people a chance to wear costumes. So we're going to suggest that, and it's just a very easy walk around campus. It's just like 0.8 miles, I think, just around central campus. And as Director Crabb said, we're also hoping to have some student government tabling there so that we can promote student government as well. And then in addition to the candy, and then we also wanted to get hot chocolate and coffee just to incentivize people to come, and it's probably going to be cold, so to just keep people warm. And then also we just wanted to get some money for like hand sanitizers and gloves just so that we can keep everybody safe with serving food and taking things.
All right, if you guys are done, we'll go back to Senator Hovey for.
I don't really have any closing statements besides please come. However, the hand sanitizer and gloves don't seem to be on the bill. Okay, I yield.
All right, so we'll go into the general debate period for the bill. Senator Zastro.
So we need to propose Finance Committee's amendments. It looks like they've already been adopted on the bill. The total is correct, but it doesn't reflect the hand sanitizer and gloves. So I don't know how the total is correct without those line items being there.
Does the math add up?
Yeah, all amount requested from student government adds up to $82.94. That's also what Finance Committee came up with. Let me double check Finance Committee's bill quick, sorry. Finance Director Class, what are your thoughts on the matter?
Look in the finance drive and move that over, because in the Senate drive, it's not the amended bill.
All right.
In the Senate drive right now, it says $80, so you gotta move it over. Someone, please, go into the, I will email someone.
I shared the bill with Mariana earlier, the Finance Committee bill that had the proposed amendments as suggestions. I'm sorry, should I have shared that with Ludwig?
No. Wait.
Do I need to send that to you? Okay, cool. Sorry about this, everyone.
Maybe Senator Zastro, you could describe what the line items are?
Yeah, so the line items are that we're missing are hand sanitizer and gloves. Hand sanitizer is 3 bottles at $3.48 each for a total of $10.44, and gloves is 1 box at $4.69 for a total of $4.69. That's on.
Are those the amendments?
Yes, those are the amendments.
Do you have a motion to propose them?
Yes, I'll move to propose the Finance Committee amendments.
Okay, so we'll move into debate on the Finance Committee amendments. Senator Zastro? The floor is yours on the amendment.
Second.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Is there any objection to voting on the amendments? Then seeing none, there's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approving the Finance Committee amendments by unanimous consent? All right, then seeing none, those amendments have been adopted. Senator Zastro, the floor is back to you.
So the total is the same as the other bill. I don't know what's different though. So it's 3 bags of candy at $9.99 each. Oh, but it's 1 bag of candy as amended. Okay, got it. Sorry about that. That makes sense. Okay, I yield. The total should be right.
Been a call to question and a second. Is there any objection? Okay, then seeing no objection, Senator Hovey, you want a closing statement?
I don't have a closing statement, but again, please come and participate, dress up in a costume, have fun, and yeah, celebrate Halloween.
All right, we'll go into a roll call vote. Please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Advait. Anderson. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Klapchtauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig. Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Samano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Zastro. Young. And then Samuel. Okay, I didn't hear the first time. All right, did I miss anybody? Then with a vote of 31 to 0, this funding request passes. We'll move on to 2020-2-025F, approving a dance marathon line item transfer, and that is with Senator Lona.
Okay, so could I have, dance marathon representatives go up to the podium, and we've seen them before, so they're just going to talk about why they need this line item transfer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Bigelow. I am the finance director of the Iowa State Dance Marathon, and today we are doing a line item transfer. So originally, when we did our budget back in the spring, we did not understand the impacts of COVID, so we had money set aside for inflatables, but with currently the COVID situation and the regulations that are being put on our recruitment activities, we are wanting that money to instead go to production costs, in the sense that when we now have events outside on campus, we do it in a socially distanced manner and hire a production company to come in and set up a stage and then a big screen for our Miracle Maker meetings, which are open to everyone who wants to be a part of Dance Marathon. So that is a description of our line item transfer.
Great. Senator Lona.
Call to question?
There's been a call to question on the bill. Is there a second? There was a second. Is there any objection to voting now on the bill? I think you can make that motion outside of the period of debate. You can object to voting now if you would like to enter the period of debate. Is there any objection to voting now? Great. And Senator Lona with a closing statement. Great. Then we'll go to a roll call vote. Say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Advait. Anderson. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Klapchtauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig. Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Samano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. Did I miss someone? Okay. Then with the vote of 31 to 0, this line item transfer request is approved. So we will now move on to 2020-2-027F, funding Pakistan Student Association with Senator Pfeiffer.
Yes, so I don't know what happened, but there's some old amendments in here that aren't the finance ones that we finalized yesterday in the Senate drive. So I'm not sure. I sent the link to the actual Finance Committee to the Vice Speaker. Okay, so there were some old amendments that I made before the meeting to prepare for the meeting, but these are the old amendments and not actually what Finance Committee approved last night. So I believe you have it up now. Is it 376? Yep. Okay, yes, that is the correct version. That is what we voted on yesterday and sent to Senate. So, yeah, so we changed a couple things. Drinks got struck because it doesn't fit PNC, and there was lots of discussion about the bowling lane rentals. And yeah, so I'll open it up to debate now.
Great. Senator Zastro.
Should I wait to move for the Finance Committee amendments?
Yeah, but maybe you could ask the club to explain the request.
Yeah, sure. So do you just want to talk about the event that you're having, why you're asking for this funding, stuff like that?
Yep. So my name is Lahama Nareen, and I'm the president for Pakistan Student Association. This event that we're asking the funding for, it's a graduation dinner event, and we're trying to recruit more students to our club and also promote cultural awareness because it's a Pakistani club, so we want to promote our culture, and the dinner would be Pakistani traditional food. So we're trying to connect the new students with the people who are graduating so everyone can learn from them, from their mistakes, and also for cultural awareness again. So that's about the event. Yep.
So I will motion to make the Finance Committee amendments.
Okay, so the Finance Committee amendments have been proposed. They should be on the screen. Changes the total from 522 to 376. So we'll go into debate on those, Senator Zastro.
Yeah, so like Pfeiffer said, these are just changing things according to PNC. So call the question.
All right, there's been a call to question on the amendments and a second. Is there any objection? Then we'll go to a placard vote. Call for unanimous consent. Any objection? Then seeing none, the Finance Committee amendments have been approved. Senator Zastro, the floor is back to you.
So a big part of the discussion that we had in Finance Committee around this bill was when we were talking about whether or not the bowling lane rental fit PNC. The applicable line is that we do not fund space rentals unless there is a free, sufficient alternative on campus. When we were having that discussion yesterday, I was considering it from the position that, of course, there are no free bowling lanes on campus. I think that how we would approach this during annual allocations and how we should approach it now, though, is that this event doesn't necessarily have to occur in a bowling alley, so sufficient space would be any classroom. As we did talk about yesterday in Finance Committee, if you've read the minutes, we would much prefer to fund the advertising of this event than the bowling alley itself. So I'll do this in two separate motions. But first, I would like to motion to amend the bowling lane rental line item paid by organization to $96 and amount requested from student government to $0 and to update all other totals.
Okay, there's been a motion to not have student government fund the bowling lane rental. There's been a second. Is there any objection to consideration of the amendment? Then we'll go into debate on it. So Senator Zastro with the floor.
I'll yield.
Senator Rinchi.
Permission to address the speaker.
Yeah, go.
If we change from funding the bowling alley lane to funding the advertising, do you think that this would impair the event in any way?
Yes, I believe we will not have this event then because we do need a place to hold the event, and this is for this semester. In case I want to apply for funding for the bowling alley, I'll have to apply to Event Funding Board, and it's already past their deadlines. So, yep, that's how it will affect the event.
Thank you.
Senator Debate.
I believe Finance Director Kless wants to say something.
Yeah, so in the discussion about this and kind of how it fits into PNC is that the MU is free for any club to use any space in the MU. Obviously, the bowling alley is not. And this event is to recruit members and also to honor their seniors, but mainly recruitment, and that's how we're funding it. From our eyes as Finance Committee and from my perspective as Finance Director, we wouldn't fund other clubs the bowling alley just because they wanted to have it there. They can have it anywhere in the MU or any space on campus for free as an organization. So it's not detrimental to the event to not have it in the bowling alley. They can have it other places. This is not, I'll save my other stuff because it's not about this amendment, but that's our thinking, is that we wouldn't fund other clubs during annuals because then any club could ask to have their event in the bowling alley, and that's not something that we do. And then also, they can have their event anywhere in the MU for free as a student organization, just not the bowling alley. I yield back to Senator Debate.
Right, and just to add to that, I have been reading the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting as well, and I'm starting to see what Finance Committee meant. And I have to say, Senator Zastro's point appeals to me as well. Recruitment doesn't need to happen in a bowling alley if we are to stay consistent with precedent and the way we've been doing and applying PNC. I don't think this is a valid point. I yield.
It's been a call to question and a second. Is there any objection to voting? And seeing none, I'll do a placard vote. So please raise your placards up for yes, you would like to approve this amendment that would not fund the bowling alley. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And up for no? And up for abstentions. What vote did you get? What'd you get? All right, we're going to do that again because the numbers don't make sense. So please raise your placard high and make it obvious and keep it up there. So yes, up for yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then up for no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then Stevens? No? Okay, so then with 18 to 13, this amendment passes. So that item has been shifted to the club. Senator Zastro, the floor is yours.
So then as Finance Director Class recommended, and as I also think would be helpful, I think it's important for us to advertise for events like this, and this is what we do for every club, is $60 in printing and $30 for an SAC flyer distribution. So a motion to add one line item that says SAC flyer distribution, quantity of 1, cost of $30, total of $30, paid by organization 0, amount requested from student government $30, and a $60 printing line item, quantity of 1, cost of $60, total of $60, paid by organization 0, amount requested from student government 60.
Okay, so there's been a motion to add $30 for SAC flyer distribution and $60 for printing. There has been a second. Is there any objection to consideration of the amendment? Senator Gonzalez, can you answer that question?
I shared it with Ludwig. Sorry, Ludwig will get it shared in the Google Drive with everyone.
Great. So we'll go to consider the amendment because I didn't see an objection, but maybe we'll hold off on a call to question on it until it's reflected in the drive. So Senator Zastro, the amendment, the floor is yours.
I yield.
Speaker Ludwig.
Yeah, if everyone would refresh the page for that folder, it should be in there. It's registering as in there on my end, so it should be Funding Pakistan Student Association is the name of the document. I yield.
Senator Vate.
Right. I think the point Senator Weathers was making is it's in there, but there's a lock sign on it, so I can't get into it either, and I have no idea what's going on the floor. That is
Great.
if I may, could you send the link for the document in the Senate group me, perhaps, so all of us can just click on it?
There's rumors it's good now.
Oh, it did work now. Fantastic.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So back on the amendment, I think it's a good idea. I was looking through PNC and the debate earlier, and it does look like, well, I want to help support this event in some way possible, and I think this is a valid way, about the only valid way for us to support it right now. So I'm going to be voting in favor, and I call the question.
It's been a call to question and a second on the amendments. Any objections? Then we'll do a placard vote. So there's a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection for unanimous consent? Seeing none, this amendment has been adopted. We'll go back to the bill as a whole and is still with Senator Zastro.
Point of information, Mariana. Do you want me to help type out the totals?
Yes, please.
Okay, I yield.
Yep.
Is the total 440 good? Does that add up? For this one?
I believe it should be 536.
Point of information, the amount requested from student government should total to $370.
That's the number I got too.
All right, the floor is still open. Senator Zastro?
Sorry, this is something that we should have gotten in Finance Committee. Finance Director class, should this be coming from special projects or discretionary?
Senate discretionary.
I motion to amend the account from special projects to Senate discretionary.
There's been a motion to change the accounts. There's been a second. Any objection? Seeing none.
Call the question.
There's been a call to question. Any second? Any objection? We'll go to a placard vote. Any objection? All right. Then the account has been changed. Senator Zastro.
Call the question on the bill.
There's been a call to question on the bill. There's been a second. Is there any objection to voting on the bill? Then seeing none, we'll go to Senator Pfeiffer for a closing statement.
No statement.
Great. Then we'll do a roll call vote. Please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Edvate. Anderson. Bender. Brown, Emery, Fahim, Grant, Green, Gonzalez, Hanyang, Hayes, Hovey, Koptatauskas, Lau, Lewis, Lona, Ludwig, Mass, Pfeiffer, Rinchi, Simano, Schulte, Simonson, Springer, Stenzel, Stevens, Samuel, Weathers, Young, Zastro. And just to confirm, Senator Kloptowska, Stevens was a no? All right. If you're in the back, you have to speak up a bit because we're shouting across the ballroom at each other. So then with the vote of 30 to 1 to 0, this funding request is passed. We'll now move on to internal matters and internal matters special orders 2020-2-060 SG, seating a senator to Rules Committee, and that is with Speaker Ludwig.
Yep, so we had one extra seat open on rules that I just never got around to filling, and Senator Zastro has conveniently been around at the last couple rules meetings, has expressed some interest in the committee, is pretty fluent with the bylaws, and also I think would make a good addition to the committee if he wants to talk about why he wants to join.
Yeah, hi everyone. You guys know who I am. I've been talking a lot, so I won't go on for too long. I think that Rules Committee in general should be very restricted in what their job is. I believe that Rules Committee should check to see if bills violate other bylaws, the Constitution, state, local, or federal laws. And I don't think that the Rules Committee amendments proposed should alter the intent of the bill or the content of the bill. I'll open it up for questions.
Well, it's back to Speaker Ludwig's privilege.
I yield for debate.
Senator Stenzel?
How many senators are on Finance and Rules Committee? Interesting. I yield.
Senator Vate?
Yes. What would be some rules initiatives you would like to accomplish, Senator Zastro?
Something that I'm interested in is creating kind of it sounds boring, but a history of the bylaws. Something that I would like to do, a general project, is for bylaws that we keep coming back to or that are particularly important, I would like to go back in student government minutes, go back into student government bylaw bills, and that way when we're talking about a particular bylaw, we'd be able to actually look at the intent of it instead of just reading the text, because frequently there's more than what's there. A good example of how this might help is we did this for the excellence account, for those of you who were here last year, and we went back and we realized that the thing was proposed and there was almost no discussion and it was passed in 6 minutes. And so we realized that, wow, this isn't something that we need to be reading into a ton. Maybe it's just something that we can change. And I think if we had that for bylaws, for all bylaws, where there was kind of an index where you could see what the discussion was around it, the whereas clauses as to why they were changed, I think that would be really helpful.
I think that's really cool. And I have to say I also agree with your plan of narrowing down committee focuses. I'm just wondering, considering that the bylaws already restrict us from making any changes of intent to a bill, what are your plans in that regard?
Well, one specific example would be the bill that we'll see regarding finance director speaking privileges. The Rules Committee amendment proposed involves changing what we saw in first read, which was the finance director would get 2 speaking privileges to the finance director gets 1. That changes maybe it doesn't change the intent of the bill, maybe that's the wrong word, but it does change the content. It changes what the bill does. And having it go from 2 to 1, that doesn't violate any bylaws. That's just kind of it feels right kind of thing. And if that's true and you think it would be better for the finance director to only get 1 instead of 2, that's your opinion. I think that should be discussed in front of Senate instead of being done as a committee amendment.
I think that's a very logical line to take. I've known Senator Zastro personally, and I'm pretty sure he will be fantastic on rules. I yield. Call to question.
It's been a call to question and a second. Is there any objection? Then I'll spend an objection. Okay. Nope, you can't. So, Senator Vate, if you withdraw your thing, otherwise we'll go into a vote to vote. Okay. Oh, I can't, sorry, Senator Piper's in the way, so Senator Simano.
My only question really is do you, in its current state, do you believe the bylaws are fully equitable, or are they not fully equitable?
I think that's a good question. That's something that I would have to look into more. One part of the bylaws that, again, I mean, I keep coming back to the same bill, but the fact that only senators are able to be recognized by the chair when there's a motion pending on the floor is something that I think could deteriorate the ability for outside individuals to come in and speak. I think also when there are, I think that we should expand the, so basically there's a bill coming up tonight that'll give the exception to the finance director. I think that should be expanded to at least all of cabinet, because that would enable people who are knowledgeable about things to be called on when it's pertinent. And a lot of times on resolutions, for example, we might see points where diversity and inclusion is something that somebody needs to be talking about. And often that's going to be Director of Diversity and Inclusion Perk. And as it stands right now, she would not be able to be called on by the Senate. And so I think that's one way that we'd be able to advance the equity in the bylaws.
Yeah, thank you. And I also agree with that second point, because at my alma mater, all cabinet had speaking privileges and just not voting privileges.
Sorry, I'm going to cut that. So let's keep debate on that bill, and let's keep this about if Senator Zastro is qualified for Rules Committee. I get it kind of gets blurry, but thank you, sorry.
I yield.
Okay, and there's been a call to question and a second. Is there any objection? Then I will go to Speaker Ludwig. Oh, okay, so we'll go to a placard vote on the nominee. Let's call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Okay, then seeing none, Senator Zastro has been sat to Rules Committee. So we'll now move on to General Orders, then General Orders 2020-2-059SA, Disc Golf Contract Amendment, and that is with Senator Zastro.
I almost just said title. That's not what I say here. So this is a contract amendment to Disc Golf Club. Is there a rep for the club here? Thank you. So they'd be able to talk about it a little more specifically. Like Class said earlier, they basically missed a year of their contract because of COVID. And so this is an opportunity for them to continue to get out of debt with student government.
Hi, I'm Daniel Slaughter, president of the Disc Golf Club. We're asking for an extension for our debt contract due to not being able to hold a fundraiser tournament comfortably within these past 2 semesters, and then we'll be able to use a combination of dues and funds from that tournament in the spring and then the next fall as well to finish paying our debt contract.
Great. All right, we'll go to the open period of debate. It's been a call to question. There was a second. Is there any objection to voting now? Great, then Senator Zastro declines to use a closing statement. We'll go into a roll call vote on the contract amendment. If so, yes, no, or abstain. Adegarla. Edvate. Anderson. Booma. Oh, sorry. Not on the roll. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Hurley. Oh, sorry. Also not on the roll. Tough. Klapsauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig.
Yes.
Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Simano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. Fahim. Okay, then with a vote of 30 to 0 to 1, this contract amendment has been approved by the Senate. We'll now go to 2020-2-023Y, Chapter 11 review, and that is with Senator Mass.
Yes. So this is the bill that was introduced last week. It is the result of Rules Committee and Finance Committee's joint meeting that we have every semester in order to review our finance policies and procedures. I've got a couple of amendments to make here quick before we open the floor to debate. So first, I'm going to move to amend the 8th to last enacted clause to reword to read that bylaw 11.7.17.116 be struck instead of that bylaw to strike 11.7.1. That's just a grammatical fix.
I guess if it's does it change the intent of the bill?
No.
Would anyone object to that being a friendly amendment? Okay, so then we can make that amendment.
All
Senator
right.
Mass.
And then I have one further amendment. This one does change the intent. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th enacted clause currently reads that bylaw 11.5.2.1.2 be amended to read the Finance Committee shall have the authority to move a criteria item requested to a non-criteria items. I'm going to move to strike the words move a criteria item requested to non-criteria items and replace it with recommend a funding eligible item not be funded. Recommend a funding eligible item not be funded.
There's been an amendment, and there was a second. Is there any objection to consideration of the amendment? And seeing none, Senator Mass, the floor on the amendment.
Yep, this should be a clarifying thing. There was confusion even among Finance and Rules Committee about what exactly the phrase in the bylaws meant. This should better reflect exactly what that phrase is meant to do in the bylaws. So that's why the amendment is made. With that, I'll yield.
Senator Vate.
Senator Mass, for the benefit of the body as a whole, could you please elaborate on what exactly the issues were?
So there was confusion because the bylaw currently reads Finance Committee shall have the authority to move a criteria item requested to non-criteria items. So there was confusion about what that means exactly. Mm-hmm. And basically what it means is that if something fits PNC, Finance Committee and the Senate at its discretion can still choose not to fund it so that they spend less money. So it's basically saying that Finance Committee doesn't have to fund everything that's eligible for funding. There was confusion when we first read that bylaw, just it wasn't clear immediately that's what it meant because criteria items and non-criteria items doesn't really ring true to saying, okay, you can decide not to fund things even if they're eligible. So I think the new language better says that.
I agree, and I yield. Second.
It's been a call to question and a second on the amendment. Any objection? We'll go to a placard vote. Call for unanimous consent. Any objection? All right, then seeing none, the amendment to the 8th whereas enacted clause has been adopted. Senator Mass, the floor is still yours on your opening statement.
Yep. So with that, I think the bill overall is pretty good. Chapter 11 is kind of one of those monsters that we look at every semester and we're never going to be able to catch everything. But I think the changes made this semester make a lot of good clarifications and remove some redundancies. So with that, I'll yield for debate.
Senator Vate.
Just a moment. There was something I can't find it now. I recall being a grammatical error last night, but or maybe earlier. Yes, I would like to propose an amendment to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 10th inactive clause from the bottom to change, to have it read, be amended to substitute per request for in any fiscal year instead of it in any fiscal year.
Can you read the whole enacted line that you're trying to change with how it stands now and then how you would like it amended?
Yes, I believe it should be able to say that bylaw 11.6.1.3, 11.6.1.4, and 11.6.1.5 be amended to substitute per request for in any fiscal year. I believe, I will be double checking just to make sure it's actually doing the correct thing. Yep.
I don't think an amendment has been.
I did propose an amendment, yes.
Can you please state it in one go?
Yes, that bylaw 11.6.1.3, 11.6.1.4, and 11.6.1.5 be amended to substitute per request for in any fiscal year. The order is wrong right now.
Okay, so there was a second to flip the order of that sentence. And is there any objection to consideration of the amendment? Then we'll go into debate on it. Senator Vate.
Right, this just corrects the bill. Because I do believe the meaning of this line is to change what's currently in the bylaws. It's not changing it. After the amendment, it will change it to what I believe was the correct intent. I will yield for questions.
Senator Zastro.
I don't think that's right, because the words per request currently do not exist in those bylaws. So if we said substitute per request for in any fiscal year, that means nothing. Yes, Senator Abbott, what is your question?
If my understanding of the semantics are correct, what I'm saying is you're substituting something with something else.
Yes. And the words per request currently do not exist in those relevant bylaws.
Which is why it needs to be first, because it's substituting.
I think there is some confusion about the English language and how that works.
That's exactly what's going on.
But I think the intent of the bill as it stood before was clear to actually change words in those bylaws. And I think our office manager who updates the bylaws has to try and implement the bill as he understands it.
Right.
And as long as we all have that understanding, I think we can be fine with leaving it how it is, even if there is some grammatical confusion.
I mean, I'm fine with the way it is too, unless, sure, I'll yield and I will withdraw. Senator Mass, did you have anything to say?
I'm speaking.
Oh,
Sorry.
Apologies.
I yield.
Then a call to question on the amendment. And there was a second. He withdrew on Senator Zastro's speaking privilege, so that. Senator Weathers, can you withdraw your motion and yield the floor? All right, Senator Vate. Great, so the amendment has been withdrawn, so we're on the bill as a whole. Now, Senator Weathers, if you would like to call a question on the bill as a whole, or if there's any further comments. All right, so there's a call to question. There was a second on the bill, the way it's at now. Is there any objection to voting now? All right, then I'll give Senator Mass a closing statement.
Please vote yes. I yield.
Great. Then we will have a roll call vote. Please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Idvate. Yes. Anderson. Yes. Bender. Yes. Brown. Emery. Yes. Fahim. Yes. Grant. Yes. Green. Yes. Gonzalez. Yes. Hanyang. Yes. Hayes. Yes. Hovey. Yes. Klaptatauskas. Lau. Yes. Lewis. Yes. Lona. Yes. Ludwig.
Yes.
Mass? Pfeiffer? Rinchi? Simano? Schulte? Simonson? Springer? Stenzel? Stevens? Samuel? Weathers? Young? Zastro? All right, then with a vote of 31 to 0, this bylaw change passes. We'll go to 2020-2-024Y. Put your names on the bills you write with Senator Grant.
Yes, so this bill is to put the name of yourself and your sponsor of the bill on the bills that you write, even if it originates from a committee. I yield. Please vote yes.
All right, Speaker Ludwig.
I propose the Rules Committee amendments.
Okay, so the Rules Committee amendments have been approved or proposed, and they're reflected on the screen. Senator Ludwig, it's your floor with the amendment.
Yeah, so this amendment just kind of clarifies, it doesn't change the impact of the bill, it just changes the way the impact is done, so we just moved it into a sub point under the bylaw that he originally amended. So it does the exact same thing, just kind of made the wording clearer. Call the question?
It's been a call to question. Any seconds? Is there any objection? Okay, then seeing no objection, we'll move into a placard vote on the change. So I heard a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approving the Rules Committee amendments by unanimous consent? Then seeing none, the amendments have been adopted. Speaker Ludwig, the floor is back to you. Senator Mass.
Yeah, so I would just, I've read through this bill, and I don't think that I am in general a fan. I understand the intent, and I don't think it's necessarily bad. I mean, who can be opposed to putting names on the bills you write? Like, it's very clearly written that way. But the intent of a committee bill, introduced by an entire committee, is that you don't have any one person who wrote the bill. You have the entire committee give input and write the bill. So it's not a procedure that's used very often at all in the Senate. We maybe have like 1 or 2 bills a semester that a committee writes, but it's usually something that's incredibly intricate. So for example, last semester, or last year, I guess I'm not sure which session we dealt with it, but when we did judicial reform, we had like 20-page long bylaw bills that no single person had written that bill. We had 6 people who all wrote maybe 2 pages of that bill, because they were all on the committee. In the end, everyone was in charge of reviewing each other's work and making sure it was good work, and the committee voted, okay, this is a bill that we are all willing to put the weight of this committee behind. So the only time that you can have a bill that doesn't explicitly have a senator's name on it is those sort of committee bills. And if you are interested in finding out who is accountable for those bills, it's very easy to do so because we have public records literally all over our website and in the MIS of who is on that committee. And any person on that committee, especially the chair of that committee, should be able to answer questions or at least direct you to who wrote specific parts of the bill. But everyone on the committee should at least have a casual information about any part of the bill. So I guess it doesn't make sense to me that we're going to say, for these sort of committee bills that are incredibly complex and usually quite long, we're going to require putting everyone's name on it when it really is the work of the entire committee. At that point, we're just listing 6 people's names on a bill for very little reason, in my opinion. So I don't think that this necessarily does anything important or very impactful for our procedures in the Senate. So I'm going to be a no vote on this bill. With that, I'll yield.
Senator Zastro.
Hi, so this is a, if I was on rules last week, I would have prepared and would have had this, I realized this, but I just realized this when I was going through the bylaws earlier today. Bylaw 7.3.1 currently specifies that the Finance, Public Relations, Civic Engagement, Sustainability Committee, and Student Initiative Committee shall select a vice chair. And then the subsequent bylaw says the vice chair of the Public Relations Committee must be a senator. There's nothing specifying that the vice chair of the Finance Committee, but the vice chair of the Finance Committee is tasked with authoring legislation. And with this, I think we'd either need an exception for the vice chair of Finance Committee or a new bylaw that says that the vice chair of Finance Committee must be a senator. I will pose that as a question to Speaker Ludwig.
Go for it.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation of the bylaws, and that is something that I know a number of members of Rules Committee have talked about getting around to, which is requiring that the Vice Chair of Finance Committee be a senator.
Okay, so I will motion to add a new enacted clause that reads, enacted that a new bylaw 7.3.1.2 be added, reading, the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee must be a senator.
Point of order. I don't think that this is germane to the bill at hand. I think this is an overall structural problem within the bylaws and should probably be addressed within its own bill.
I think it is germane to the effectiveness of this bill. So I rule it germane. Great. So there was an amendment to add, can you continue with the amendment, Senator Jastrow, reading it out?
Yes, enacted, so it's adding another enacted clause that reads, enacted that a new bylaw be added, 7.3.1.2, which reads, the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee must be a senator.
Okay. So there's been a motion for an amendment, and I heard a second. Is there any objection to consideration of the amendment? Then we'll go into debate on it. Senator Zastrow.
I yield.
Senator Debate.
Right, this bill is germane, amendment is germane, let's work on a different bill. This is a problem we need to fix, and I'd be more than happy, and I'm sure all of Rules will be more than happy to work on this as a different bill. I yield.
Vice Speaker Gonzalez.
Is that correct? Is that how you want it to read? Okay.
It's been a call to question. There's a second. Any objection? All right, then we'll go to a placard vote on the amendment. Please raise your placards up for yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are you up or down? Yes. Okay, up for no. And Stevens? And abstentions? Okay, so then with 13 to 17? Yeah, that makes more sense. With the vote of 13 to 18, the amendment fails. We'll go back to the bill. Senator Zastrow.
Yeah, without that additional amendment, I don't think that this bill is a good thing because it would create contradictions within our bylaws, which we have no real way of resolving. So I would encourage a no vote on this bill. I yield.
It's been a call to question. I heard a second. Is there any objection? Okay, then we'll go into the, I'll give Senator Grant a closing announcement, or closing statement.
So I'm not really aware of the bylaw that this would contradict. I'm not entirely sure on that. So I don't know. It didn't seem like it was contradictory to anything that you said. I don't really see how it applied to anything that was really mentioned. I just wanted your name to be put on the bills that you write. So that's what this intent of the bill is, and that's pretty much it. I was in favor of the amendment that we made to make it a subclause in the bylaws as well. And yeah, I just encourage you to vote yes.
Okay, so we'll go into a roll call vote. Please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Edvate. Anderson. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Sorry, what was that? No. Gonzalez. No. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Klapstowskis. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig.
No.
Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Simano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. With a vote of 9 to 21 to 1, this bylaw bill fails. We'll now move on to 2020-2-019Y, granting the finance director speaking privileges with Speaker Ludwig.
Okay, first I will propose the rules amendments.
Is that the Rules Committee amendments from the first week this bill was in committee or the second?
We'll do the first week first.
Okay, so the Rules Committee amendment from the first week changes the number of speaking privileges from 2 to 1. So we'll move into that first. Speaker Ludwig, the floor is yours on that amendment.
Yeah, this was an amendment made by the committee. Everyone felt that this more properly aligned with, I guess, the intent of the bill. So that's all I have to say on that specific one.
Senator Zastro?
As I mentioned earlier, I don't think it's Rules Committee's place to change something like this that ultimately has nothing to do with the bylaws or the Constitution. Aside from the fact that I disagree that it should be 2 speaking privileges, I don't understand why the finance director should have to have less speaking privileges than any of us as senators. We confirmed the finance director. That person is far more knowledgeable than even anybody on Finance Committee about the inner workings of Senate or of the finance process, and their input is very important to us making informed decisions as a body. I would highly encourage that we keep it at 2 speaking privileges, because if we want to be the best Senate that we can to best serve the student body, it's a Senate that is making informed decisions, and willingly not letting our finance director speak on financial bills would be just covering our own eyes. I yield.
Senator Edvate.
Right, just to give some context, you can ask why the finance director shouldn't get the same amount of speaking privileges as all of us as senators. And the simple answer to that, I say, is that they are not a senator. This is a body of senators who are supposed to discuss and come to a conclusion by themselves. So that by itself, I think, is a good reason not to give them the same privileges that we as senators in our own body have. Secondly, yes, we do confirm the finance director. We also confirm a lot of other offices. That doesn't automatically mean we let them. Thirdly, I do accept that the finance director has extreme expertise, but that's not a good reason just to let someone talk. President Winterstein has great expertise on matters of university policy and university administration, but we're not going to give them a speaking privilege in Senate just by their title. We would still have them come here, and we would recognize them when we need them to be part of the debate. And I do admit the finance director is a little different, which is why I think 1 is a good sort of balance to strike here. I yield.
Senator Hanyang.
Finance Director Class, does this bill limit your ability to effectively answer questions during debate, or do you feel like it adds value to people calling on you for funding bills?
So that's not a question about the current amendment, which is 2 or
Okay,
1
I
speaking
yield.
privileges. But it's a great question for the, for the whole general period. All right, Senator Mass.
I would just like to echo what Senator Debate mentioned here earlier. Senator Zastro, I obviously understand your concerns. We elect a finance director because they have specific expertise. In fact, our finance director, as an officer of the Senate, I believe should get the right in order to speak before us. That being said, the point of debate is that we debate. We have people of different opinions who have different ideas, and they're able to discuss for 45 minutes. And then that's it. Once the 45 minutes are up, we're done, and we vote. I think that spending 5 minutes of those time for the finance director to be able to interject during the middle of the debate and say, okay, we seem to have strayed a little bit. Here are some facts that we need to get straight before we keep going. I am okay with that. I think that's a valuable use of the Senate's time. I do want to hesitate, though, before we give them 2 speaking privileges. I think that at that point, we're starting to get very close to the finance director acting as kind of an unelected 35th senator. Obviously, we have put safeguard provisions in this bill that prevent the finance director from expressing their opinion. I understand that. But I do want to echo that if they're only stating matters of fact, I don't think a second speaking privilege is the end of the world, that it's going to provide that much additional value to the finance director or to the Senate. So I think 1 does a good enough job, while also continuing to protect the rights of senators, that they're going to have time within our limited 45 minutes to be able to speak without being preempted by another member. So I think that's very important. And I just kind of want to echo that. So again, I think that this 1 is probably a good compromise that takes all of the interests involved and finds a good balance. So with that, I'll yield.
Zastro.
Just to respond to a couple of those points. So first of all, the finance director would not be an unelected senator, because senators have the ability to talk about whatever they want so long as it's relevant to the bill. The finance director, as this bill specifies, is, and as you specified, is only supposed to be giving matters of fact. So out of a 45-minute discussion, I would never expect the finance director with 2 speaking privileges to actually take up 10 minutes of time. Second, it would not be an unelected senator because, as a matter of fact, actually, Finance Director Class was elected as a senator and then vacated his seat to become Finance Director. So if you're worried specifically about the fact that Finance Director Class would be acting in a capacity which the student body does not trust him, that is simply not true. Because of the out of this bill, because the finance director through this bill is so limited to what they can say, I think it would be very important to for them to have as many opportunities. I mean, I'm not advocating for more than 2, but the opportunities that they can to interject with matters of fact, because we can ask Senator Class whenever, or Finance Director Class whenever we have a question about something, but we don't know what we don't know. And so if it's, hey, this is coming from the wrong account, or if it's, hey, our president will absolutely not put this through. That's things that we as senators are not thinking about. And not only do we need a chance for him to correct us on matters of fact, we also need the opportunity for a dialogue back and forth. He can interject and tell us what the true facts are about the state of our finances, or the opinion of our accountant on this. And then us as senators are able to ask questions back, and he is able to respond further. That would be why I think that 2 is a good number, and why we should keep it at 2. I yield.
Senator Anderson.
I just wanted to state my support for what Senator Zastro is saying, because 2 speaking privileges, I think, will actually make the meetings more efficient than the 1, because you create that dialogue. If we're constantly referring to finance director Class, then it takes longer than him just being able to put up his placard and then have a speaking privilege. Second, I want to make the point that this is not making him closer to becoming a senator because he can't vote. He doesn't have that power, and so it's not really infringing on any of the rights that we have as a Senate. I yield.
Senator Debate.
All right, I do agree. There's always, we're not finance people. We're not going to know everything in Senate, but the facts are not going to change from one speaking privilege to another. I think it is prudent for the finance director to have the opportunity to state all the facts in one go, and I think after that point, it is our responsibility as a Senate to listen to that and take that apart from reading bills, see what have you. So considering the facts aren't changing, I'm very hesitant to give the finance director almost a quarter of all the time available on the floor for a single bill. Let me ask you this, would you want a non-senator to be able to speak for almost 25% of the time we have on a bill? That's not going to make meetings run faster. Meetings are going to run faster if they have one speaking privilege that we attentively listen to. And then after that, the debate is a matter of the Senate body. Again, as a senator, if you go to any body you are not a part of, if you go to cabinet, if you go to finance committee when you're not a part of finance committee, you cannot speak unless you've been recognized. By giving them one speaking privilege already, we're giving them a privilege effectively that most of us would not get outside of our own bodies. Therefore, I'm going to implore the body to keep this at one, not go over that, because I think this is the best balanced, the most balanced solution available. We've spent a lot of time debating on this, and I'm not going to take any more, so I'm going to yield.
All right. And as a point of information, Vice Speaker Gonzalez and Speaker Ludwig can both speak whenever they want at cabinet meetings without being recognized. Senator Rinchie.
Finance Director Class, did you have some comments you'd like to make?
I do, actually. So this has been a debate for a while once we changed Chapter 4 of the debating process to like have the opening things and all that jazz. So the problem I could see coming up is that there is information, like, per se, a couple weeks ago we passed asset bills for things that were FY20 just because they were accounting errors. That stuff, like one asset, confusing, right? I presented about it for a couple of slides on my PowerPoint at the retreat, but not everyone came to the retreat, and I also don't know all about it, but I know more than you. Really sorry to say it, but I do. And that also then had to come from special projects, which doesn't fit PNC, and special projects is supposed to fit PNC. And I mean, no one asked questions, but that's because I was very adamant in my update, and also very adamant at the beginning, being the person up there to talk about it. My one thing is that, to speak directly to what Senator Debate was talking about, just saying the facts and the facts aren't going to change, debate changes after you give facts. And so more things can go up. Also, how often do all of you, again, this is not financing, so I am giving my opinion right here, and I feel a little uncomfortable doing it because I am not a senator. However, how often do senators use their full 5 minutes is one thing. If I, as the second enacted clause says, can only give my opinion, or can only give the facts, I really doubt I'm ever going to use more than a minute for each. So I don't think I'm taking up a quarter of the time, and I think that's a little bit of a hyperbole for the debate. So I think that 2 would be best, because I currently have to be let into the conversation to give facts that I was confirmed to know, and I would like the ability to, by my own volition, because of information that I know, be able to enter the conversation 2 times, but when I deem fit, and I probably won't do it that often, but weird things like PNC or annuals or asset recommendations, things like that that are confusing for senators and confusing for myself even, I would like to be able to speak as much as possible by my own volition and not have to be asked to join the conversation. I will yield back to Senator Rinchie.
Sure. Well, that was loud. Sure. So another thing is, like, if just as I gave my time to finance director class, like that's time that I can't use to represent my students if I need him to speak. So then that gives, the College of Ag less time. The other thing is that while I respect that you've stated that people could get all the facts out in one go, we're all human. How many times do you forget that there was something important that you wanted to bring up in the discussion earlier and you didn't get the chance to in that round, and you remember it halfway through the next debate and you want to throw it in there? I think that'd be a good way for him to be able to bring those points up, with a second speaking privilege. And as he said, it usually won't take very much time. And I think that, let's say that it takes 2.5 minutes per speaking privilege, 5 minutes overall. Those 5 minutes could save us 25 minutes of debate otherwise. I think it's a really good value add for our students. So thank you. I yield.
All right, and amendments have a 15-minute debate period. I have 12 minutes and 22 seconds currently, so if you would like to continue debating, there might be a motion to extend the period of debate at some point. But Senator Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I would just like to echo that. I think 2 gives a better opportunity for the finance director to explain something that may have come up in debate after his first explanation. Maybe we started talking about the first point, and then he didn't think an important point about the second point was relevant, so he didn't include it. And then we talked about the second point, and he should have the ability to step back in and say, hey, this is really important, you all need to know this, so that we have the information. Because, like he said, we're all human. He might forget something, and that's all right, but he needs the ability to bring it back up and bring it to our attention so that we can make a informed decision. And I think 2 speaking privileges is a great way for him to do that. So with that, I called a question.
Okay, there's been a call to question on the amendment and a second. Is there any objection? There's been an objection. Senator Pfeiffer, do you withdraw? All right, Senator Mass, 1.5 minutes.
I'll keep this brief, but this is kind of reminding me of a James Madison quote, and I just had to look it up. But it's, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. And I think that's definitely true. I very much appreciate Finance Director Class, the work he does, and I think he does a great job, and I don't have worry about him abusing it. But we have to make rules for the worst case scenario in the future where they are necessary. For example, we didn't used to have time limits on committee updates, and then we had a finance director who regularly gave 7 to 10 minute updates. So we had to scale back the time limit there. I'm not saying that finance director Class is going to abuse his speaking privileges. I just want us to make rules for the best so that they last longer than just this year. So with that, I'm going to yield and I'll call the question.
All right, there's been a call to question, a second. Any objection? Great, then we'll move into a placard vote on the Rules Committee Amendment 1. So please raise your placards up for yes. You would like the amendment to move it to 1 speaking privilege. So placard raised means we want 1 speaking privilege. All right, and then up for no. And then Stevens? Yes. Okay, then with a vote of 8 to 23, this amendment fails. We'll go back to Speaker Ludwig on the opening statement.
Yeah, I will propose the Rules Committee amendments from the second week, which deal with the the whereas clauses, and then adds in to be recognized by the chair into the first enacted clause.
Great. So the Rules Committee amendments have been proposed, and so Speaker Ludwig, the floor is yours on the amendment.
Yeah, so I wasn't at the meeting when this specific amendment happened, but my understanding from the minutes and from my conversation with members was that this simply clarified the bylaw that we were adding in. So I think it just helps out. Yield. Call the question.
There's been a call to question and a second. Any objection? All right, then seeing none, we'll go to a placard vote. Call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approving Rules Committee amendments second week by unanimous consent? Then seeing none, they have been approved. Speaker Ludwig with the opening statement as well, still.
I yield.
Okay, so we'll go into the general discussion period for the bill. Senator Advait.
Right, so I would like to start off by saying I do really appreciate everything the finance director does. They are really useful to the well-functioning of this, to the proper functioning of this body. And as a legislative officer, I am perfectly okay with them speaking on the floor. I was listening to the points brought up by the current finance director just a couple minutes ago, and I can see the merits of two speaking privileges, but I also heard something. I do also agree that these privileges will probably, like a minute, is probably enough, as to quote Finance Director Matt Clace. So I'm going to make an amendment to change the first enacted clause to say that student government bylaw 4.10.3.1 be added to read, the finance director shall be allowed 2 1-minute speaking privileges.
All right, there's been a motion to make the speaking privileges 1 minute long each. Is there a second?
Object.
There has not been a second yet. There was a second, and now there's been an objection to the consideration of the amendment. We will have... I don't know if that's... Is that a debatable motion, Speaker Ludwig? I don't think that's a debatable motion. I think we just go straight into a vote on it. So please raise your placards up for yes, you would like to consider this amendment to make the speaking privileges 1 minute long. All right, and then up for no. All right, then by a majority, the amendment is not considered. So, Senator Advait.
I do not understand. If someone would like to say why they voted no, I would like to. Senator Zastro, please.
I think it would just be relitigating the argument that we just had.
What?
I think it would just be restating the argument that we just had, except instead of talking about why it's important for him to talk 5 minutes, it's why should we limit him to 1 minute. And I think it's the same discussion.
Senator Rinchi.
I also think it's really probable that we can get into a discussion where they need more than 1 minute to try and actually explain, you know, like if we got into asset, like what if they need 2-3 minutes? Like that way we don't limit them. But I mean, we can just royally shun them if they are going to continuously speak aimlessly.
I think this is a completely different matter, but I mean, it's clear that the body doesn't want to consider this, so I'm going to yield.
It's been a call to question and a second. All right, is there any objection? All right, then without objection, I'll ask Speaker Ludwig for a closing statement. And he declines, so we'll go into a roll call vote on the bill. Please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Advait. Anderson. Bender. Brown. Emery. Fahim. Grant. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Hayes. Hovey. Klaptatauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig.
No.
Mass. Pfeiffer. Rinchi. Simano. Schulte. Simonson. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. Right, then with a vote of 27 to 4 to 0, this bill passes. So we will now move on to new business. Within new business, we have 2020-2-030Y, Chapter 8 revisions. And that is with, Mass, I think.
Yep. Title. All right, so this bill, Chapter 8 has to do with administrative work within the government, so that deals with our advisor, our office assistant, Supreme Court advisors, and other advisors of the government. This is an area that has changed a lot within the last 2 years of how exactly our advisors function, how our office assistants function. And this basically has not been touched much at all during any of that, mostly because none of us knew exactly where the end state was going to end up, and we didn't want to make changes before we had a permanent structure that we were happy with. So this finally makes the changes to what exactly we're expecting of all of those people, and all of that sort of thing. So I would love to be open to any questions over the next week if anyone has any, but with that I'll yield.
Any questions of intent for Senator Mass? All right, and seeing none, we'll see that one next week. We'll go 2020-2-031F, Winterfest line item transfer, and that is with Senator Zastro.
Yeah, so Winterfest can't really do anything because of the so we'll see this next week. It's just a line item transfer.
Any questions of intent? All right, then seeing none, we'll move on to 2020-2-032F, Phi Sigma Pi, and that is with Senator Bender.
Title. Yeah, but just funding for a couple things they need, so we'll see it at Finance Committee.
Are there any questions of intent for Senator Bender? Then seeing none, we'll go to closing announcements. Please raise your placard if you have any. Senator Han Young.
Hello, everyone. Great debate tonight. I know that this is kind of getting in the weeds with some of these bylaws and some of these. When we're debating these, just be a little bit careful on drawing points that are a little bit exaggerated. It just draws out some of the debate, and we could be a little bit more efficient with it. Additionally, when you're speaking to a public audience, so please be careful about comments regarding people's language or things like that. I know if they have no intent, still could be interpreted wrong. Just everybody's kind of tired, and I understand that. On a brighter note, Senator Bender, Adegarla, and I were able to visit the Jardine expansion in the Ivy College of Business home. It's looking great. There's a student organization kind of area sponsored by Kingland that is going to be in the center of the new area, kind of bridging between where the old building was and the expansion is. So if you have a chance to go check it out, don't go inside of the areas. They've been very specific in saying that they've had to kick some students out of that area just for going past where the construction barriers are. So that's all.
All right, President Fritz.
Yes. So first off, if there's anyone that would like to do the Senate recap, just talk to Ellie after Senate. Additionally, Dance Marathon has been kind enough to drop off some extra donuts from their event. So they're on a chair back here, all prepackaged and ready to go. So if you'd like a donut, pick one up. That's all I have. Have a great week.
Senator Vate.
Hello. So last week, I know I said I hope to have updates for the body about the status of the campus safety walk. Unfortunately, I have not gotten a response yet, but I still hope to have one by next week. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, as you might have heard about in the SI committee update this evening, mental health walk is on the 31st of October. I know we have another Senate meeting before then, but I'm going to plug it. If I'm understanding, in speaking to Director of Student Services, Brett, this could be a great, what I'm understanding is this could be a great Senate get-together event. We haven't really had those this year, so I don't know, could be fun. We could all dress up and have some hot chocolate and have a good time in general, so just putting that out there. And yeah, that's all I have. Everybody have a great night.
Senator Zastro.
Thank you all for a great debate, everybody. One thing that I would like to mention, 2 weeks, the Senate is going to have a first read of PNC. That means that next week is going to be the last time that Finance Committee is seeing. So if there's anything that you guys have seen, if you've been looking through, reviewing for clubs funding eligible, stuff like that, please get that to me or any other finance senator by next Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have a chance to look at that in Finance Committee. I yield.
All right, so I'll go. I just wanted to quick thank Senator Klaptowskis and Senator Stevens. I think we finally got the proxy system rolling the way it's supposed to. I stopped forgetting to call after placard votes, so thanks for everybody dealing with it, and hopefully that system continues to work for people that need it. Next week, we have a time-honored tradition of student government of dressing up in Halloween costumes before the meeting before Halloween. I don't know if that's Speaker Ludwig's decision to make, but that would be cool to do again. I think it would maybe liven up the place a bit, huh? So with that, I'll ask Vice Speaker Gonzalez.
I love that idea. We didn't get to do it last year. Sad. But so happy week 10, everyone. I'm so happy we've all made it here. So with that, I'm just going to say, please remember and keep in mind to have those mentor-mentee meetings. I would prefer, again, that the mentors be the ones to email me once those are done. A couple of you have been having group mentor-mentee meetings, which I think is so cute. So yes, please get 2 done by the end of the month. And then as well, just as like a side note, please don't pack up while other senators are speaking. It's really disrespectful. What they're saying is really important to them. So just be mindful of that. But other than that, have a great weekend.
Speaker Ludwig.
Okay, I'm all down for the costumes next week. Consider yourself all ordered to show up in something, or not. I don't have the authority to do that. Just as a notice, there are, I believe, 3 weeks left in this session. So, you know, if you're trying to get a project done before the end of this semester and it needs a bill to come through Senate, you need to get on that. If you're writing a bill, I would prefer not to take bills that require 2 readings for the last meeting unless it's very urgent. So, you know, by the 9th, by the 2nd, I would need to see any bills, you know, bylaw or finance, or I would like to see any bylaw or finance bills. That way we have enough time to consider them over a 2-week period. So yeah, just keep that in mind as we're rolling through the rest of the semester. Things are, you know, we're getting close to the end. So if you really got something you want to work on, now's crunch time. So with that, thank you everyone for the quality debate tonight. Get home safe, and go Cyclones. Move to adjourn.
Any objection? All right, adjourned.